So there are these two moments in the history of the term, the translation of the term. We try to go back to this problem. Then another thing, an important thing, is in the New Testament, the term liturgia is very rare. We find it seldom. And usually refers to the cult of the Jews. So when we find liturgia or liturge, the verb, in the New Testament, it refers to the Jew, to the priests, to the Jewish priests. But there is a text in the New Testament among the letters ascribed to Paul, but we know that this text was not written by Paul, it's much later. It is the letter to the Jews. In this letter to the Jews, we found established something that will have a huge influence on the Christian liturgy. I mean, the idea that Christ is a priest, is the model of every priest, is the archiereus, the archpriest. Can you say archpriest?
Yeah,
archpriest. Archiereus. And as such, as being the high priest, he is compared and opposed to the Jewish priests. And the letter will say that while the Jewish sacrifices were not really efficacious because they had to be repeated, they were repeated. The sacrifice that Christ accomplished on himself was a sacrifice that he operated the salvation of man, so was absolutely efficacious, and this was the paradigm of the Christian sacrifice. There is a fact that this text does not tell at all that then the church has to repeat this sacrifice. Just say, priests accomplished once for all the salvation of man through this sacrifice. So it is the archpriest who saved humanity, once for all. No mention of Christian priests, etc. What happened is that the church, after, took this as a paradigm of the activity of the priest for the celebration of the sacraments. So, so they will celebrate again and again the Eucharisty, and taking this text as the source of the paradigm. But in the text there is no mention of this. This is the church did this. So we have this. This is why this interesting historian of religion, Strumsa, had I think, very correct idea. It is that, as you know, after the destruction of the temple, the Jewish abandoned the celebration of sacrifice. There was no place, no temple anymore, and they substituted to the celebration of sacrifice the Talmud Torah, the study of the Torah, study of the law. So in the synagogues they studied till now. Today they continue to study the Torah, and there is no more sacrifice, no more celebration of sacrifice. So Strumsa said, in this sense, we can say that the rabbi spiritualized Judaism. They abandoned the practice of sacrifices. On the contrary, what we have in the church, according to Strumsa, I think it's right, we have a coming back to the idea of sacrifice. Christ is the archpriest who celebrated, gave himself in sacrifice, so celebrated this sacrifice, and the church will, since that moment, continue to renew and celebrate this sacrifice in the Mass. So in this sense, Strupsa is right. Christianism is a sacrificial religion. Although it's very peculiar sacrifice. There is no blood. There is no blood verse. Blood. Who say to me?
Bloodshed. Shed. I mean, it's the past tense of bloodshed.
No shedding of blood.
No shedding of blood.
To shed is the verb.
Yeah.
There is no blood shed, of course, but still there is a sacrifice. So another text was fundamental for the history of Christian liturgy is a later text, the letter of a bishop, Rome Clement, to the Corinthians, where this is the first text where we see the idea of an ecclesiastical hierarchy, the importance of the activity of the priest. So we see that in that text, for the first time in the Christian community, the priest begins to acquire a peculiar role. Up to that moment in the primitive community, the priest, there was no distinction almost between the priest. We never found the term priest. In the first century, the term priest is completely absent. We speak of the ancient presbytery, of the doctor, the man, the one who was had more knowledge. So there were among the community, the church, a person who had the role of being more wise and more ancient, more old, so they had a particular presence, but there were no priests at all. The first time that we found something as a priest is in this letter. And so in this letter there is a pretension that the priest comes from the apostles. It is a genealogy that still now is repeated. The priests come from the apostles. The apostles named as their successor a person, this person named another, and this founds the legitimacy of priesthood. But that's for the first time we found this. And so this priesthood is conceived as a ministerium, as a peculiar function, as a ministry, and I think that liturgy, in some way, resulted from the conjunction between these two texts. The letter to the Hebrew, where we have the idea of Christ as archpriest, celebrating its own sacrifice, and this other text organizing a ministry, a body of function officers, a body of officers. So this. So on one part we could say we have the mystery of the Christ's sacrifice. On the other part we have the ministerium of the priests. So the conjunction of the mystery with the ministerium creates a particular body of person, the priest, who we could say had the ministry of mystery. They had to administrate the mystery. So this, as far as to establish a kind of a very short history of the liturgy. And then let's now try to analyze what is this liturgy, which are the characters which defines this peculiar praxis, which is the praxis of the priests.